The black forest didn't welcome her. It stalked her. Daren stepped between the twisted trunks, her boots crushing bones half buried beneath the soil. The air tasted like rust, and old screams echoes of battles long erased. She knew the forest hated her kind. She felt it in every trembling leaf, every whisper of the wind that snagged at her cloak. This wasn't just nature. It was malice, ancient and hungry. A low growl rippled through the dense fog, a sound that wasn't animal, but something far worse. Then the silence cracked and the hunters emerged. 10 shadows, 10 killers. They flowed from the mist like wraiths, their forms indistinct, their faces hidden behind cold, featureless masks. They held no sigils, no banners. Just bloodlust sharpened into human form. They didn't speak. They didn't hesitate. They attacked. The first hunter rushed her, blade arsing for her throat. She met him with a brutal upward slash that split through armor and spine. The sound of tearing metal and snapping bone echoing in the unnatural quiet. The second tried to flank her, his movements silent and swift. She spun, a blur of leather and steel, and crushed his jaw with a heavy kick before carving his throat open in a single, fluid motion. A blade tore across her ribs. Warm blood spilled. A stark crimson against her dark tunic. She didn't slow. She never slowed. Another hunter lunged, his weapon a vicious, hooked spear. She caught his arm, twisted until the bones snapped with a sickening crack, then drove her own blade through his chest so hard the impact shook the ground beneath them. More shadows flooded from the tree line. It was like the forest was vomiting its hatred straight at her, an endless tide of faceless violence. One leapt from a low-hanging branch above, a dagger aimed at the back of her neck. She grabbed him mid-air, using his momentum to slam him into a tree so brutally the ancient trunk cracked. She ripped her blade from his sternum in a spray of blackened blood. Her breathing was ragged now, a harsh rasp in the cold air. Her fingers were numb, her muscles screaming in protest. But her eyes burned with an unholy light. This wasn't a fight for survival. This was a message. She was fighting to warn the world that she was still alive, still a threat. Suddenly, the ground rumbled, the air thickened, growing heavy and oppressive, and just like that, everything stopped. The remaining hunters froze in place, suspended like corpses in invisible chains. Their weapons inches from her skin. From the deepest darkness between the trees stepped a woman. She wore a crimson cloak that seemed to drink the light, and her presence was so heavy the forest itself seemed to bend around her. Her voice slid through the silence like a knife, cold and precise. We pushed them to break you, and still, you refused to die. Daren raised her blade, blood dripping from its tip onto the leaf-strewn earth. She didn't bother looking at the frozen hunters. Her gaze was locked on the newcomer. "If you wanted me dead," she growled, her voice raw, "you should have sent something stronger." The woman smiled a slow, cruel smile that felt older than the trees, filled with a terrible, knowing amusement. She lifted a hand, and in her palm rested a crest, a sigil Daren had only seen in nightmares and half-buried memories, a symbol soaked in betrayal and loss. "Your true enemies already know what you are," the woman whispered, her voice a serpent's hiss that coiled around Daren's heart, "and they are preparing to erase you." Again, Daren surged forward, a roar of pure fury tearing from her throat. But before she could reach her, the woman's body dissolved into a cascade of burning red ashes. They swirled around Daren, blowing past her face like the forest exhaling its last dying breath. As the ashes vanished, the frozen hunters collapsed, their bodies hitting the ground like sacks of meat. They were lifeless, and the silence that followed was louder than any scream. Daren stood alone amidst the carnage. She wiped the blood from her mouth with the back of her hand, her eyes narrowed, her pulse steadying into a cold, rhythmic beat. Someone wanted her broken. Someone wanted her controlled. Someone feared what she was becoming. They should. Because tonight the forest bled. Tomorrow the world would. Thank you for watching Season 2 of Shattered Crowns. If you're as gripped by Daren's story as we are, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the next episode. What secrets does that crest hold? Who is the woman in red? Let us know your theories in the comments below. We'll see you next time.